I bought my ranch for peace. That was the whole reason. After 20 years of working construction contracts across 3 states, I wanted quiet mornings, open land, and no one telling me what I could or couldn't do on my own property. The ranch sat just outside a growing suburban development, one of those master plan communities with identical houses, perfect lawns, and an HOA that seemed to believe it ruled the world. At the time I bought the land, there was no overlap. Or so I thought. The ranch had been in private ownership for decades, well before the development ever existed. I had a clean title, county records going back nearly 50 years, and clearly marked boundary lines. I fenced the perimeter, installed cattle gates, and settled into a simple routine: early mornings, long days, and quiet nights. That peace lasted about 6 months. It started with letters. At first, they were polite but confusing. The HOA claimed part of my land, specifically the eastern pasture, fell within their community-managed green space. I laughed when I read that. My pasture had cattle, water troughs, and fencing older than their entire subdivision. I ignored the letters. Then the tone changed. The HOA demanded I remove fencing encroaching on HOA property. They threatened fines. Then liens. Then legal action. I sent them copies of my deed and a county survey. I assumed that would be the end of it. I was wrong. One morning, just after sunrise, I was repairing a fence line when I heard sirens. 2 sheriff's vehicles pulled up along the dirt road bordering my land. Behind them were 3 HOA board members in shiny SUVs, wearing sunglasses like they were about to film a reality show. The officers stepped out and asked if I was the property owner. I said yes. They told me the HOA had reported trespassing and illegal fencing on their land. I actually laughed, and invited them to walk the boundary with me. The HOA president, a woman named Karen, and yes, that was her real name, insisted I was lying. She waved printed maps from the HOA's internal planning documents, pointing at colorful lines that conveniently swallowed up about 15 acres of my ranch. The sheriff looked unimpressed. I brought out my original deed, the county certified survey, and tax records showing I'd been paying property taxes on that land for years. The officers took their time reviewing everything. They radioed the county assessor. They checked GPS coordinates. After nearly an hour, one officer turned to Karen and said words I will never forget. "Ma'am, this land is not yours." It never was. Karen lost her mind. She accused the county of corruption. She accused me of forging documents. She demanded arrests. When that didn't work, she threatened to sue everyone present. The officers left after warning the HOA not to waste law enforcement resources again. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. Over the next few weeks, the HOA escalated. They sent legal threats. They tried to fine me, despite the fact that I wasn't part of the HOA and never had been. They contacted my utility providers, claiming my connections were illegal. They even sent contractors to inspect my fencing without permission. That was when I decided to stop being patient. I hired a real estate attorney, one who specialized in HOA disputes. He took one look at the documents and smiled. "They're not just wrong," he said. "They're reckless." It turned out the HOA had been quietly expanding its claimed boundaries for years, betting that individual landowners wouldn't fight back. Most people paid fines or gave up small parcels to avoid legal battles. I wasn't most people. My attorney sent a cease and desist letter outlining harassment, false reporting, and attempted fraud. He also filed a formal complaint with the county, and something even more interesting. He requested the HOA's governing documents. That's when the real story came out. Buried deep in the HOA bylaws was a provision that allowed any landowner owning more than 10 contiguous acres adjacent to the community to petition for voting rights and board eligibility, provided they paid a minimal annual administrative fee. The clause had been written decades earlier, long before the subdivision grew. No one on the current HOA board even knew it existed. My ranch bordered the HOA on two sides, and I owned over 60 acres. Legally, I qualified. Not only that, because HOA voting power was based on acreage, not number of homes, I held more voting weight than dozens of homeowners combined. The HOA had tried to bully the wrong person. I filed the paperwork. They laughed until the county approved it. The next HOA meeting was packed. Word had spread fast. Homeowners were tired of rising fees, petty violations, and power-hungry board members. When I walked in, the room went quiet. Karen tried to block me at the door. I showed my approval letter. She went pale. During the meeting, I calmly presented my case, not emotionally, not angrily. I laid out evidence of harassment, false police reports, and boundary fraud. I explained how HOA fees had increased while services decreased. I explained how their reckless behavior had nearly resulted in lawsuits that would have bankrupted the association. Then I did something they never expected. I ran for the board. Karen laughed again. The vote happened anyway. Between my voting power and a growing rebellion among homeowners, the results were decisive. Karen lost her seat. Two of her allies lost theirs. I didn't just win a position. I became HOA president. The room exploded. Within weeks, everything changed. The fines stopped. The bogus land claims vanished. Legal counsel replaced the HOA's self-interpreted rules. Transparency audits revealed thousands of dollars in questionable spending under the previous board. Karen resigned completely. I didn't seek revenge. I sought order. We rewrote enforcement policies. We capped fines. We created an appeals process. We clearly defined property boundaries and submitted them to the county to prevent future abuse. And most importantly, I formally withdrew my land from any future HOA jurisdiction, permanently. The ranch was mine. Legally. Publicly. Undeniably. 1 year later, the HOA is quieter, cheaper, and less hostile. Homeowners wave when they pass my fence now. Some even bring coffee during morning walks. The irony isn't lost on me. They called the cops claiming my ranch was theirs. One meeting later, I controlled the HOA. And after fixing what was broken, I walked away, leaving behind something better than I found it. Peace.